Eighth grade science. This is our first instructional video for Unit 5, Week 1. We're almost there. And this unit's all about waves. So you're probably thinking like ocean waves. We'll cover some of that as well as some other types of waves that maybe you don't know about. It's an interesting unit. It is technically physical science still, but it's a little bit harder. Last unit, Unit 4, motion energy, I think is really, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it's easier to think about because it's a lot more things that you observe in your daily world. Waves, not as much. So this one might be challenging for some, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily harder than anything you've done in the past. So that's good. The first thing we're going to do, first activity, is vocab. There's going to be a lot of new vocab words because waves are kind of technical in what we have to cover and teach you about them. And we'll have lots of practice on kind of using this vocab a lot, kind of this first week and a little bit into next week as well. So really the goal is to start learning about waves. And as usual with our learning targets when it comes to vocab, I want you to try and write your own definition for each vocab word as much as possible. If you look at the lesson plan portion of this activity, there is spell work that I'd like you to do. This is a really, really cool, I think it's technically a music video from the Somatic people, but it really shows a lot of different waves, and it's just really neat, especially if you watch it till the very end, because then they have some electricity in there too. And so kind of from watching this, there's going to be a lot of different examples of waves. I'm just going to have you record a couple of them on this Padlet here. So you're just going to write about one wave that you saw. You'll probably see there's a lot of repeat because while there is a lot of examples, people usually remember a certain couple because they're kind of interesting. So write down some waves that you saw, and then we're going to be taking some notes. So I want to explain those quick, and then I'll have the directions for the vocab down here. So if you open up your notes, these are going to be on parts of a wave. There's 3 areas you're going to be writing, and these are going to be based on these teacher notes here. So when we talk about waves, there's different parts of a wave, and these are all going to be vocab words as well. That's when I say we're going to be using your vocab quite a bit. It's kind of in this stuff where we're really focusing on teaching you parts of the wave, identifying waves, things like that. So if you look here, you're going to be typing in that box those numbers off to the right, and you're going to type them corresponding to this graph. So a wave length is basically from a certain part of one wave to a certain part of the next wave. And this way, in this example, we have it from the top of one to the top of the other. That's considered one wave length. It's from that same part here, same part to here. We look at number 2. Number 2 is called the trough. It's the bottom part of a wave versus 4 is the top, which is the crest. So you could say in our wavelength example, right, it's from crest to crest. You can also do it from trough to trough. Really, as long as it's from the same point on one wave to the same point on the other, that will always be one wavelength. Now, something that kids always find a little tricky is this thing called amplitude. Amplitude generically is the height of the wave, but the thing that usually trips kids up is they usually think the height of the wave is from the crest, the top of it, to the very bottom, and it's actually not the height of the wave. You have to kind of divide that in half because we have this thing called the resting point. That's that dotted line that you see, that's number 5, and amplitude is from the resting point to the top of the wave. So I'm going to kind of give you an example a little bit, and hopefully that'll help you visualize it a little bit better. So if I had, say, a bucket of water or a cup of water, doesn't matter, and the water is just kind of sitting there, right? The surface of it's going to be flat. That is considered the resting point. So it's whatever, in this case, a liquid, whatever the medium is. We'll kind of go through that in your vocab later. But it's whatever that material is when nothing's happening, okay? When it's flat. So imagine a cup of water, nothing's jiggling, it's flat. That's the resting point. Now, if I were to hit the table next to it, that'll cause a wave in that water, a vibration, and you're going to see parts of that wave. You're going to be taller, you'll see the crest, and then part of it's going to be lower. That's the trough. The thing is, we consider the height of the wave is from where it started at, which was the resting point when it was flat before I touched it, to either the height, or you could also do it to the trough. It's not the whole thing. It's only half of it, from the resting point to either the crest or the trough. Hopefully that makes sense. On the bottom here, this part, I'm going to have you label parts of a wave. If you're doing this, because you guys will be doing this on Google Slides, you guys can just insert arrows and lines using this kind of line tool up here. But what you're going to do is you're going to label some parts. So if this is an ocean wave, as you guys can kind of see, I just labeled the crest and the trough. So the crest is the top of that ocean wave. The trough would be the bottom. If you're looking here, this is another type called longitudinal wave. We'll learn more about that in a couple weeks. The wavelength is from where they're really close together to the next part where they're really close together. So you can label that on your notes as well on here. All right, I think that's everything for the notes. I will go through how to do the vocab in the directions video. But other than that, you should be good to go. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.